Welcome to Rising Stars, where Miriam Knight, publisher of New Consciousness Review, interviews exciting new voices in the world of progressive and transformational books, films, and ideas, who offer intriguing perspectives on life, the universe, and everything in between. Join us as we celebrate the conscious awakening and explore many expressions of consciousness in action.
Rising Stars Show. I'm Miriam Knight, and here on Rising Stars, we celebrate some of the best transformational writers and creatives that you may not yet have heard about. I will be introducing you to 2 or 3 of these each show, and I think you'll find the perspectives intriguing, and they just might add a few more pieces to the puzzle of who we are and all we can become. Our first guest today is Gordon Lent. Now, Gordon is an explorer of human potential and a researcher into the potential destiny of the human race. This fall, he and his team will launch an expansive new website called Zero Universal that will share the refreshing new possibilities that are now available for all humans. He will outline a rich presentation of cosmic understanding, specifically focusing on how to obtain and actually use our latent potential. He is currently composing numerous music albums in a genre he calls cosmic music, music that is composed with the intention of bringing in a very high vibrational and purely divine series of expressions. Gordon, welcome.
Welcome, and thank you for having me on the show.
Wow, that sounds a pretty impressive undertaking. You sound like you have a pretty positive view for the future of the human race and hopefully the planet. Now, how do you perceive what lies ahead in the next decade and the rest of this century?
Well, actually, it's pretty awesome. The future of the human race really is loaded in potential realization of magnificent new levels of accomplishment. Now, I'm not talking so much in terms of third dimensional world events that we can turn the news on and hear about like we just did, but I'm talking about the multidimensional dynamics that are flowing into the earth plane. They're absolutely extraordinary, that you may not sense are here, but I could review some of those if you wish. These potentials that have arrived into and sort of gifted to the human race that are unprecedented, they're brand new in a way. And when we review these, it just becomes exciting as to what any human being can begin to unlock in terms of their own personal potential and in how they fit into a magnificent creation that really has no ceiling to the direction that you can accomplish your dreams. So where would you like to begin?
Well, I would like to begin with, first of all, how you came to this understanding. I mean, it's not, as you say, in 3D reality at the moment, not perceivable by most of us. And we all would like to have a bit of an optimistic spin in our perception of the future. How did you arrive at it?
Well, long ago, and not so far away, when I was at university, I had a deep feeling that I wanted my full potential, consciousness-wise, physiologically wise, emotionally, and etc. And so I learned meditation back then. Deep meditation, transcendental meditation. And I had extraordinary experiences of going to levels within myself that quickly became universal. In other words, I would go to the quietest level of my mind, very expansive level, very delicate, transcend that, and there were often times when I would feel like I was the universe. I was this wholeness. Then I'd come back and focus on my schoolwork and etc. And I noticed this exploration of inside, going to this source of my being, enhanced everything in my life. My grade point average just shot up. I was up taking 25 hours a quarter, and just I sort of got ignited intellectually, and my heart started to soften. So I continued that practice, and then over time, over the decades, it's just been an inner passion to know of the origin, the lineage, the history of the human race, and the potentials and like the magnificent gifts that lie within. And where are we headed if we maximize and use this within ourselves? I think everyone knows they have some real special, wonderful values that lie deep inside. But today's life sort of doesn't give you time to explore those. But I think soon is coming for the planet, from within people's inner individual consciousness, an enriching new flow of, I guess you could call it divine. It's almost like we're going to start as individuals in this whole human race experiencing our universal nature. Mm-hmm. We're pretty familiar with our individual personality. And most of the world functions with their individual selves, but a few of us are getting bored with that, and we're now sensing there's a huge reservoir deep inside that, I call it the universal self, where you have all this latent potential. It's like we're billionaires, and yet most of us don't know we're billionaires, and so we still go to the ATM machine and get $100 or $200 out a day, and we don't know there's just all these treasures that lie inside. Now, what's different, perhaps in this era, and then I'll wrap that up, is that there is a new direct connection to this universal nature of ourselves available. Everybody's got the key. The access code is ultra simple, and you simply can go in and in a few moments experience this universal nature inside, and then your day it becomes a little more happier, a little more fulfilling, a little more enriched with this universal value of yourself.
Well, I certainly have noticed a real upsurge in people spontaneously awakening, or awakening as a result of a trauma, or meditation seems to be a really key helper on that path. But there's definitely an upsurge, I think, around the world. So you're and I think people like you who have been on the path for a while are coming out into the open as way showers and encouraging people who might be on the brink, to take that extra step and open up to this possibility. So tell us about this website that you have put together. What is its purpose?
The zerouniversal.com, which will be the new ones launching towards the end of the summer, really explores the possibilities. We have a section of music where the composers really bring in a very special high vibrational music that is very enriching and balancing. We're also going to explore the leading artists of our age that have very high frequency in their artwork and or their performances. We're going to take a fresh new look at creation. What is this creation that we can see out there, but we sort of know also is inside us, beyond science. Because science, how far can Hubble see? Well, they've seen out, I don't know, 13.7 billion years, and they hypothesize it's out 47 billion years beyond that. But really, the new science is about the laboratory of one's consciousness to explore the creation. And then, how do you fit into it? What are the laws of how you create your life, your world, and your future in the creation? So we take a look at that on the website. Then we have a magnificent section on the future of the human race. And maybe if there's time, I'll review a few of these special new dispensations that have recently come down into the earth that I sense are here. And then we take a look at adventures. And then a final section that we have on the website is called Connections, which primarily focuses on the connection to source. Now, we all know the unified field exists inside of everything in matter, but then there's the huge source of it all that is at the center of our universe, and actually at the center of all universes, which I'm hypothesizing might be the case. There's many universes, in other words. So we have a direct connection now right to the source, right to the bank, right to the vast reservoir of all of existence. And where is that? It's deep inside everybody at the quietest level of one's thinking process. So that makes me excited about the future. It's bubbling up. It's unstoppable. As a matter of fact, there will be a magnificent new era coming to this planet. And yes, you can't see it by looking at the news. Because what do they focus on? They focus on
negativity, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you won't want to miss the rest of this interview, but we're going to go to break. We're speaking with Gordon Lent about Zero Universal.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Matt Connerton here. Join Jen Coffey and I twice a week for Matt Connerton Unleashed, a political talk show that's a little different than what you're used to. No liberal or conservative agenda here, just an honest dialogue about truth and how things really work in the world of politics. Matt Connerton Unleashed, every Tuesday and Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. Simone Milasas would like you to know that business can be fun, which is why she wrote the book, Joy of Business. What if you could have the joy of business rather than the stress and struggle? Most of the time, the only thing stopping you from a thriving business is you. In the Joy of Business book, Simone gives you access consciousness tools and pragmatic ways to get out of your own way and to create the business, life, and living you know is possible and beyond what this reality says is achievable. Business is joy. It's creation. It's generative. It can be the adventure of living. You can purchase your copy of the book through Amazon or Joy of Business website, www.accessjoyofbusiness.com.
Hi, this is Angela Levesque, host of Entanglement Radio. Join me Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern for inspiring conversations with visionaries in spiritual science and conscious healing. Entanglement Radio, Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern. Transcendent talk for the conscious mind.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
And welcome back. We're speaking with Gordon Lent, the creator of a new website called Zero Universal. Gordon, what is the website exactly?
It is a vehicle to share.
The website URL, where do people go?
zerouniversal.com, but it is to be launched in late August, perhaps. The coding will be finished. We have a blog up right now, website, but so that will launch fairly soon, and it's going to be a fairly extensive vehicle for looking at this extraordinary potential of the human race.
Great. It looks like it's going to be a really fascinating hub. Now, just before the break, you were hinting at a few coming attractions on this planet. Do you want to share a few with us?
Okay. Sure, and I'll try to keep it short, and it's going to get pretty heavy pretty quickly, but I'll keep it somewhat delivered in a joyful way. So we all know we're pretty much divine consciousness having a human experience, okay? We've put together pretty much that much. Now, the key is how to get this divine nature of ourself flowing every hour of the day so we use it, or at least more and more of it. And so we're going to focus on that in the website. Practical steps, practical tools, simple, quick, that connect you right into your source, your universal nature, at the quietest level of your consciousness, and then, boom, out you go and express some of that richness in your everyday life. So some of the things coming is there's a brand new set of universal DNA formulas that have been gifted to this human race since, let's say, the last 8-9 years. They've been coming in. Now, you don't see them with your eyesight, but they're in the field on the other refined levels of our collective consciousness. And they are there, ready to be basically activated if one chooses. And once the choice is made to go for some of these additional capabilities, one of the capabilities is to become a new kind of creator being in human form. Now, you don't read a lot about this in perhaps other avenues of human potential, but here on this planet, which has had an extraordinary past of very challenging experience, hundreds of thousands of years of it, we have been gifted to birth a new kind of species altogether that sort of takes the human evolutionary template and maximizes it into a new kind of super evolutionary being in human form. Have you heard about that one before? Not too often.
Well, actually, Gordon, I heard of an experiment that was done in Russia years ago where they shone a laser beam through a fertilized duck egg into a fertilized chicken egg. And when the chicken hatched, it actually had webbed feet and a flat bill. And this tells us the rather extraordinary idea that light is a carrier of information. And if it can affect coherent light, if it can affect the developing DNA in that experiment, then what you're suggesting is not absolutely outrageous.
That it is marvelous, the codes that are contained within light. And when you do, like on third dimensional, these scientists shoot the light through the duct and create sort of a collaboration of information, of genetic information. That is quite fascinating. But the cool thing is, coming also to the planet is a new kind of energy that isn't quite present right now. It's actually starting to come in, and mainly because there's a new grid in place, a divine grid around the earth. The old one was pretty sabotaged, to be quite honest, and manipulated and malformed. And so over the last several years, there's been building a brand new, very divine light grid that is now in place as of the winter of 2014. And that's allowing a lot of new kinds of energy to come in, which will take, like the experiment the Russian scientists did, to way beyond that in what is possible for the evolution of this human race. And it all starts with asking and intending on an individual level. Because, it's all choice down here. We all have our choices, right?
Right.
And, yeah.
In fact, there was a book called The Only Planet of Choice, referring to the Earth. And it goes back to what you were saying earlier, consciousness.
Consciousness is the fundamental key. Let's imagine the people who are running the Pentagon and the War departments all over the world were tapping into their universal nature in addition to just utilizing their individual self-ego mindsets and belief systems. If they were utilizing that rich value within themselves, it would be an entirely different world. Everybody has this universal value. It's just a matter of intending and choosing to tap into it. And then nature provides you the means that's best suited for you. Because there's not just one way to do it, but there definitely is this universal nature inside of everybody. If one chooses, nature shows you how to start accessing it. And then your life improves. And then your family likes you a little better. And your neighborhood gets, and your community, and it just spreads out.
Ripples out, yeah.
Your energy affects the whole planet. So you might as well have it full on enjoyable and happy and rich and the heart warm and the wisdom flowing and the brilliance capable of figuring out that the whole world is interconnected and how to best serve the holistic value of life.
Now, Gordon, you mentioned earlier that you had been a high school teacher and you had been in contracting. So you're a person, with your feet on the ground. And yet now you are talking about cosmic influences. How did you actually accept that into your being and decide to act on it?
Well, actually, that's very interesting. So when I was learning to become a teacher, I had learned, meditation. And so when I first started teaching high school, there was a lot of kids on drugs, and some of them became interested in learning to experience a larger nature naturally. So I taught them TM. And the principal calls me in one day and says, Gordon, what's going on with these kids that you taught TM to? They're starting to show up for school a lot. They're becoming active in class discussions with other classes they're in. It seems to improve them. And so I've been pretty wild in my thinking, even from the day I started teaching, which is 75, I think. And so I've always sort of stretched the boundaries of, hey, what's possible here? We know what we see is not all the answers. And so I've been a little outrageous my whole life anyway, and especially contracting. Okay, so I'm out building houses. I built for 26 years, renovations and houses. And I started to gravitate my crews who were also into all this kind of stuff. So we would have a blast during the day building and talking about this wild stuff. So it can work together.
That is such a wonderful vision. Speaking of vision, how did you get into music, and what's the relationship between music and your vision?
Way back, in grade school, I started music, and fortunate was I to be in a school district where they really emphasized a superb quality of music education. So all my young years was into symphonic, choir, jazz, rock, all that stuff, and performing. So that was the basis. But then I said, okay, fine, rock and roll and all the genres we're used to, I'm a little bit tired of that. So I want to explore and bring down into the earth like a cosmic value of celestial sound. What does it sound like up there? So I had to unlearn my musical theory and my training and try to, from the heart, in the most expanded state, compose from that level. And so what I'm noticing is that when people listen to some of the music, they become balanced, they become peaceful, they become expansive. They start to remember that they are also from the cosmos.
Wow. Now you have some CDs available. What are they called?
Oh, I've got actually 23 of the works. And the one I just posted up today is called The Far Shore of a Cosmic Ocean. And it's a big symphonic work with, it follows the creators. Yeah, go ahead.
And where can people go to hear that?
Oh, on our zerouniversal.com will take you to a blog site, and they're listed there. Mm-hmm. So there's a few albums there.
Oh, and I have listened to some of the tracks, and I must say that I just adore having them on in the background. They're so really peaceful, and they kind of entrain you into this almost altered state.
Cool.
So what would you like to leave our listeners with? A quick thought.
That you're awesome, and you sort of know it. And once you choose to start unlocking that, nature will show you just how to do it. In other words, the right person will come by, or the right angle to take to start unlocking your extraordinary potential. And this is the era when we do that as a whole human race. If the choice is made,
now is the time. Now is the time.
Nature will respond. Absolutely.
Thank you, Gordon Lent. ZeroUniversal.com. Watch out for it and listen to his music. Thank you so much for being with us, Gordon.
And thank you very much.
Stay with us and we'll be right back.
The best of holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hi, my name is Monica and I'm the host of Co-Creating Now. Give yourself an opportunity to connect with your all-knowing higher self and manifest joy, love, and peace together every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Eastern.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake. Join Elliot Jolish, the business therapist, each Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern for the Elliot Jolish Hour as he interviews business experts on your behalf. And you're invited to email your business questions to questions@ecjgroup.com for answers, live, on air every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on the Elliot Jolish Hour. The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Oh, and welcome back. We have with us our next guest, Kathryn Cole. Kathryn was awakened from a sound sleep by an incorporeal entity called Melchizedek, who instructed her to write down what he was communicating. Her book, Messages from Melchizedek, Guardian of the Fourth Door, is a collection of the channeled conversations she had with him over many years. Melchizedek speaks about the nature of reality and how humanity must begin to accept responsibility for our thoughts. The fourth door in the title refers to mankind's conscious leap from our third dimensional reality to fourth dimensional responsibility. Welcome, Kathryn. I'm so delighted to have you on.
Thank you, Miriam. It's nice to be here.
Kathryn, your book is called Messages from Melchizedek. We've heard the name in many contexts. Who is Melchizedek?
Melchizedek is a disincarnate being who, like I said, first contacted me in 2004. He is mentioned in the Book of Urantia and also in the book The Alchemist. And he, when I first started channeling him, I said, well, why me? And the message he gave me was that I had worked with him when he was incarnate on the earth in the first temple in Jerusalem, so many, many years ago, and I was one of his apprentices, if you will, or, accolades or whatever, and so that's why he and I had a connection previously. Mm-hmm. But I, of all people, was so shocked to begin to channel when I had never had any intention of doing that.
What had you been doing before?
Well, I started with a group of people who were studying the Kabbalah, which the part we were studying was guided imagery and path working, and it works with archetypal images, and it's a very powerful tool to get in touch with your deepest levels of consciousness. And I had only been going to this group about 2 weeks, and we had 2 different meetings where we did this guided imagery, and I knew right away it was very powerful, but it was after the second meeting that I was awakened out of a sound sleep from somebody saying, okay, wake up, this is important, you've got to write it down. And I thought, well, what the heck is this all about? And so I just thought, well, I'll go along with it. And from then on, over the course of the next year, I received just volumes and volumes of information transmitted from this entity who identified himself as Melchizedek and explained where we knew each other from, and just asked me to write it down. And I said, well, am I supposed to have a book, do a book or something? And he kind of said, well, yes, eventually. So yeah, that's how it all began.
What types of information did you receive?
He sends to me, or he has sent to me, all this information about the nature of reality and why humans are here on planet Earth, and we're incarnated here because we don't really know yet that we are such powerful beings and that we are consciously co-creating our reality. And that was quite a shock, but he indicated that we need to know that we're responsible for our thinking and that our thoughts create our reality. And under that guidance, then we should be cautious of how our thinking is developed and what kind of thoughts we carry in our essence. And
because we are so powerful as creator beings that we could actually manifest them. So whether they're good or bad, we'll still manifest them.
Exactly. And we are in this case, we are in Earth because Earth's atmosphere and this planet's atmosphere is so dense that it's kind of like being locked in a padded cell. So we can actually, our thoughts, we can learn about our thoughts, we can experience our thoughts, we can manifest our thoughts without completely obliterating, the planet or ourselves. Now, maybe we haven't been so good at that lately, but I think we're learning.
The padded cell seems to me a very apt analogy. Interesting. I'm curious, Kathryn, you had already gone some way down this path by the time you went to this Kabbalah workshop. What set you on to this kind of spiritual exploration? Well,
I've been myself. I grew up in the 40s. I was a baby boomer era, born in 1948, and I was in a very what you might call dysfunctional family, And so I was constantly looking for a way to deal with kind of the hand that life dealt me. I lost one parent very early at age 12 suddenly, and was kind of left to my own resources at an early age. So I started to read, and I read and I read and I read all kinds of information. And it just seemed to me that there was a lot of life to be explored. There was a lot of consciousness to be explored beyond the ends of my fingertips, and that I was on a mission to find out and learn what I could. And so I just started educating myself. I took a class in psychic development that was given by a person, and I really enjoyed that, and realized that I was aware enough to intuit certain things. I've always been highly intuitive, but this was beyond that. This was realizing that, yes, I could actually use my consciousness in a manner that was helpful to me and perhaps, hopefully, helpful to other people.
It's interesting how what you say reconfirms what our earlier guest had been saying.
Yes.
That consciousness really is the key mover of our creation and our manifestation.
Yes.
Along
and
with intent.
Intent and our responsibility. We have an awesome responsibility in that we can use our consciousness for a very good purpose. And if we don't recognize that, we're apt to stumble and trip and fall and create things that are unintentional, but that may be not very helpful for others.
Mm-hmm. Now, you said that you were always intuitive. When did you discover that you were intuitive, and how did you discover it?
Oh, that's a very good question. I have been very sensitive, and I think being sensitive, it allows you to tap into your intuition, maybe. And I say that because if you've been exposed to trauma early on, then you have a way to deal with trauma. You learn to, a lot of people say it's a disassociation with your core essence. And in that state of disassociation, there is a lot of intelligence. There's a lot to learn from being kind of one-off, kind of taken off balance a little bit. Melchizedek talks about being like in a washing machine off on the spin cycle when the load gets unbalanced. That's not always bad, but it teaches us. There's a lesson in that unbalanced state that we need to pay attention to, because if you utilize that unbalanced state, you can bring up that intuition. You can kind of nurture it in yourself so that you can tap into it.
I have heard from a lot of people who had really traumatic and threatening childhoods that they developed their intuition as a form of self-preservation that allowed them to sense danger and avoid it. And I'm wondering if that was a kind of a pre-birth choice, that you went into this situation in order to develop these intuitive skills. I don't know, just speculation.
I totally agree with that. I absolutely totally agree with that. In fact, I questioned Melchizedek towards the end of this book that I wanted to know, why me, and he does talk about it. And my book is just a diary of sorts. It just I can't even think of the word. It
Chronicles.
It chronicles the messages that he said to me, and I could always ask a question of him, mentally, a thought question. Mm-hmm. And my channeling style was not that I abdicated my own personality, but that I received information mentally from Melchizedek in kind of big bundles of thought. And my job as the scribe, as it were, was to dig into those bundles of thought and pull out what was most appropriate. And now when I asked him about it, about my beginnings and why I might be intuitive and be the one that's been contacted by him, he said, yes, indeed, you did design this. You as a human being, you contracted before you incarnated here to be able to experience this theme. And my theme for this lifetime has been abandonment. Mm-hmm. And so abandonment is for a child, of course, is a big, scary place.
Absolutely.
So when you're thrown into that kind of, that vortex, then you figure out how to sink or swim. So it's a survival mechanism, indeed. What you said, it is.
So your book is called Messages from Melchizedek. Will there be a sequel? Have you been working on it?
I have been working on it, and I've started to develop a sequel, and Melchizedek is giving a lot of information about how we develop disease, how human beings on this planet, why we would develop disease, how, the big C, the big cancer disease, and he's got a lot to say about that, and I've been scribing from him again, and I think it's going to be very interesting. So far it has been.
Do you have a title?
I don't yet. No, I don't. It may be More Messages from Melchizedek. I don't know. Melchizedek is kind of a mouthful, and that's just the identity he gave to me. Now, the way I've spelled it is different from you might find it on some other places. I spell it Melchizedek, and he confirmed that was the way he wanted it spelled, but it's spelled a lot differently on some sites. So Melchizedek appears in a lot of places. So I was very surprised, and I have been delighted to have been able to receive this
Well, I'm sure that we would be delighted to read it. Yeah. So, Kathryn, I want to thank you very much for joining us today. And I wish you much luck with your book, Messages from Melchizedek. Thank you, Kathryn.
Thank you, Darian. It was delightful to talk to you.
Stay with us, and we will be back with our final guest of the day. Miriam Knight, you're listening to Rising Stars.
Bringing a more conscious lifestyle to your world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth radio is conscious living for your soul every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Hi, this is Sylvia Henderson, intuitive life coach and energy healer. Are you ready to elevate and rise way above your normal? Be sure to listen to my show, Intuitive Transformations, on OMTimes Radio, Sunday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern. Get the inspiration you need to transform your life.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on OMTimes Radio.
Welcome back. We are here with our next guest, June O'Brien. Now, June is the author of the Blue Child series, On the Mountain and the North Road, 2 books of poetry, and she has degrees in psychology and counseling. Her latest book is called Dream Talk, a collage of subjects about how dreams communicate and about their intention and how they're a means that spirit uses to send help. Subjects in the book range from how animals talk to transformation, and there's even a recipe for infused oil to help the dreamer remember the dream. I've got to get that recipe. Welcome, June.
Good morning, Miriam.
Hello. Okay, I have to find out what is infused in the oil. Does it really work?
Well, it does, actually. Some of these oils have been known for a long time by people that they help with dreaming. And one of them is mugwort, and one is skullcap. And then lemon balm is what you often find in those kind of little dream pouches that you buy here and there. And hops, surprisingly enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can infuse the oil or infuse the separate oils and then mix them.
Uh-huh.
And then you put them on your wrists before you go to bed and a little bit on your neck. And a friend of mine made some for me. She's a herbalist. And the first night I used it, it blew me out of the bed.
Really?
It did. I had a dream about ancestors and soul retrievals, and so I decided to include that recipe because it was such a powerful ally to dreaming.
Fantastic. How did you get into dreaming in the first place?
Well, Miriam, when I was an adolescent, an old aunt in my family, identified me as one of the family's dreamers. And I found this to be true over time, that people bring me their dreams, and I seem to have a knack for getting to the deep message that is in dreaming, that is available to all of us through our dreams. And I think that the reason this could happen in my family is I originate from hill country in southeastern Oklahoma. My family came in there to that area when it was still Indian territory. And so I come from a family that believes in knowing what is going on at a distance, anticipating events. The earliest I remember this is a cousin of mine and I were sleeping in the bed with another one of my aunts, and she woke up in the night and from a dream and sat rocking on the bed saying, "Something's wrong with my boy, something's wrong with my boy." And, of course, no one had phones then, but about first light, her son came in the front door. And he was okay, but they had been in a wreck, and his best friend had been killed.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of thing. So when I was told that I was a dreamer, I think possibilities opened to me that because I lived in a culture that didn't shut them down.
I see. Very interesting.
Yeah.
So what would people find in this dream book? How is it different from other dream books?
I come from the point of view that dreams are always trying to reach me with a bigger spiritual message, and that they are orchestrated to bring me into identity with my highest possibility, with my highest self. That the dream maker doesn't really see me as the person that I call by my name. She sees me as something greater than that, and that dreams are orchestrated to help us get to that higher self or that greater being, to live from that, to relate to ourselves and our lives from that. And so I think over time we've become more apt to psychologize our dreams. I think we were led to see them as the repository of a less lovely self, our hidden intentions and our hidden desires. And so they kind of became seen as messages about negative projections and that sort of thing, if you see what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So
you really think that they're the way that either our higher self or spirit actually conveys information to us that will be helpful for our daily lives?
To be helpful for our daily lives, but to also help us see our own magnificence,
mm-hmm.
that we come here with this magnificent spirit, and that work, there's a work for each of us to do.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can see ourselves in that, as participant in those bigger dimensions, then we relate to our lives in the right way.
What's your favorite section of the book?
I like the part about the dream that begins with the dream maker, she loves me. Because the dream maker is always trying to reach us, is always trying to encourage us, is trying to get us to move away from our small selves, as I already said. And so I really like that one, that she is working for us all the time, and that her intentions are always helpful, are always benign. And
you refer to the dream maker as a she. Is it she for everyone, or just she for women and he for men?
I refer to the dream maker as a she because it is so awkward. If I'm talking about the dream maker,
okay.
Dream maker as an it, it just doesn't have the same resonance.
Right.
And she can be very, very personal and up close. So, I want to acknowledge her as the power that she is. So when I'm working with men around a dream, or a man around a dream, I will refer to the dream maker as he. What do you think he is trying to communicate?
Right.
So throughout all my writing, my blogs and so forth, I use she. I'm a she, so that.
So the book is called Dream Talk, and where do you have a website, or where can people find out more, go into it more deeply?
I do. It's called the Blue Child series, after the novels that I've written.
Mm-hmm.
And so I put up a blog about every 2 weeks. And then my books are all on Amazon, of course.
So the website is bluechildseries.com?
The bluechildseries.com, correct.
Okay.
The novels are the Blue Child series,
mm-hmm.
On the Mountain and the North Road.
And where are you going to go from here? Do you have any other books in preparation?
Miriam, I'm writing the third book in the series of the Blue Child series. And I stopped to write Dream Talk because I thought it was going to be simple, and I should have known better.
Is life ever simple?
I know. It took about a year to put it together. And so I'm now working on the third novel in the series.
And what are the novels about?
They're about 3 American Indian sisters who live near the peninsula, the Olympic Peninsula, and they are called on a spirit journey. And initially, they don't know what that is. But Ruby, the main character, was called by a dream and responded. And so they go on a spiritual adventure to save the blue child.
Mm-hmm.
So they travel through tribes and urban Indian communities and eventually discover the North Road, which
is it intended for young people or for adults?
For adults.
Uh-huh.
The people who have read them really, really like them.
Great.
Lovely.
Well, bluechildseries.com, thebluechildseries.com. Right. June, thank you very much for being with us today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Miriam.
And do join us next week to meet more rising stars of the new consciousness. Until then, shine brightly, dear friends. The world so needs your light. Many blessings.